Hello, everybody. Welcome to this workshop workshop about vibe coding with Flutter. Um, so anybody who's here for the workshop, it would be best to have everybody on this side. There's still space, so we can have like more intimate conversation and chat. If you want to stay there, that's fine too. But like who wants to come over, feel free to come over. Um, so vibe coding with Flutter. Um, First off, welcome. Quick about me. My name is Norbert. I've been part of the Flutter community since pretty much the very beginning, when I was back in Alpha, and I've always been interested in anything dev tooling and anything kind of how can you make Flutter more efficient. And I remember when GPT-2 came out, I was seeing this and I saw, wow, you could use some sort of algorithm to generate text, which looking at it nowadays, it was bad. Like it was able to kind of finish a story and only drift away from the story after a sentence or two. But it was like the first kind of step or instance where I saw this is something interesting. And it's been really, really interesting to see how Flutter evolved, not Flutter, but AI and also Flutter evolved over the years. And ever since kind of Copilot came out and you didn't have to copy paste code into your IDE and back, stuff started to really accelerate. About me, like build failed successfully. I did some live streams about vibe coding a couple of weeks, or I think at this point months ago, where I intended to build a game in Flutter without writing a single line of code. I've paused the live streams for a bit because I've been super busy with stuff, but I'm hopefully gonna get back at some point. All the recordings are on YouTube, so if anybody wants to check them out, feel free. There's a QR code. Was really fun to kind of work on the game. And more recently, or rather where more of my time is spent on, I'm working on Vide, which is an AI-powered visual IDE for Flutter. Andrew briefly mentioned it at the keynote. What I'm kind of trying to do is build a cursor, but specifically for Flutter. So anything you as a Flutter developer would need, building UI, managing state, implementing native features, Vite tries to aim to do. Right now, there's a web version open. By the way, for this workshop, we're not gonna use Vite, mostly because I wanna have like a tool that everybody probably already knows or has heard of. We'll come to that in a minute. But if anyone wants to try it out, the web version is out now. You get some free credits to play around with. Anybody wants to play around, just reach out to me at some point in the conference. Happy to give out free credits. And a downloadable macOS version is also coming soon, which will work on your projects then just in the cloud. So before we start with actually vibe coding stuff, I just want to do a quick vibe check. And yeah, I had to include that pun. First off, who has heard about this thing called an LLM before? And I hope to see lots of hands. Okay, cool. I think there were most people. That's good. Who is using AI day to day? Like who already has any form of AI integrated into their workflow? That could be ChatGPT, that could be some cursor or some other thing. Awesome. Who's using any kind of agentic mode? So this is becoming a bit more specific. With agentic mode, I mean you don't necessarily copy prompts back and forth. You don't use the just tap to complete model, but you use some IDE that has like something where an agent works on its own. So I saw a couple of hands. Okay, so this one's the most specific. Who spends more time writing prompts rather than code? Okay, we got like 1.5 person. Cool. So my goal is to kind of get people more towards this area. Anecdotally for me, I have to admit like most of the code I write nowadays is AI generated. It doesn't mean I just sit back and don't do anything. It's more like I give it very specific constraints, very specific kind of things to do. And honestly, most of the code that I write is in some way or form generated by an LLM. Cool. So the last question, who has brought a laptop with any kind of AI IDE thing that you can use installed? Okay, a couple of people. So this is gonna be a workshop. and I will implement an app, which I'll talk about briefly. Anybody who has something installed or wants to have something to work on, feel free to follow along, kind of put your own spin on the app that we're building, and just experiment yourself with what I'm explaining, showing, and so on. Anybody who hasn't installed anything but would like to participate in actually coding, I will have a slide of different tools, which are also free to use, that have trials, they can easily download and set up in a couple of minutes. If you just want to listen in, maybe have questions, or kind of be part of it, that's totally fine too. So, what are we going to do today? That's a pretty simple question. Of course, we are going to build a production quality app, publish it, and have it available for everybody after this workshop. So this is a bold claim, and I hope it will work out. So I explicitly didn't prepare this part, because what would be the point in pre-preparing something that I kind of want to show how you take something and vibe code and work on it. So I have a bunch of ideas where to take it. I have, of course, a bunch of experience how I do it in other projects, but anything beyond that point will be kind of made up on the spot. So if there's any technical errors, if the internet goes out and we don't have access to LLMs, I don't know what we're gonna do, but we'll figure it out. So what are we gonna build? So I thought about this for a bit, and conference is great, but me personally, I think it could use some sort of proper app or some website that is made for mobile, where you can favorite your talks that you want to attend, add notes, maybe have push notifications for what to attend. Of course, we're in a workshop, we're live coding, we need CI/CD setup. And last but not least, we will also want to publish to the web, so everybody will have a conference app that you can use, which is a pretty nice coincidence, as this is one of the earlier talks. So if we succeed with everything, we'll have a conference app everybody can use. And for anybody following along, you can build your own conference app with your own spin. Like, you can add some games, have some cool things in there. By the way, we're aiming to not write any single line of code ourselves. So before we start, tools. There's a bunch. Of course, I also had to include my own IDE in there. It's not that production ready yet, that's why we're not going to use it, but there's Windsurf, there's Cloudcode, there's Cursor, there's Rootcode, there's Klein, there's Zed, there's tools, it feels like every day another tool pops up. I'm going to use Cursor because that's what I've been using the most. But honestly, any kind of AI IDE thingy works. If you want to use Windsurf, Klein, anything installed, free to do that. I will show it just in a minute how to, as an example, install Cursor and get started. For models, same thing. There's so many different models, and they all have their merits. They all usually work pretty well. Me personally, in this talk, I'm going to use Claude 4. I'm also a big fan of Gemini 2.5, which also works. The thing is, every model has a slightly different personality, so you kind of have to get used to how a model typically works. And I've just had the most experience using Claude 4, so that's what I'm going to stick with. Feel free, if you're using Cursor, there's an auto mode that you can use. It will pick an appropriate model for you. Feel free to pick any model. Everything should be applicable to pretty much any model. It's just a matter of details, how they kind of work. So this is going to be an interactive session. So I'm going to do stuff. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to add comments, and just have a conversation. There's going to be a microphone that we can pass around so everybody can kind of hear who's listening in. But before we start, does anybody have any questions? No questions? Okay. If there's anything during the workshop, feel free to reach out. So let's go. As I promised before we start, I just want to kind of show Cursor. I hope the internet will work. I know LLMs don't require that much of a connection, but this might be a bit annoying, but we'll see. So for example, for anybody who doesn't have anything installed, I can recommend Cursor, any other AI IDE that you just download. Usually they have some kind of free tier that you can use. You just have to sign up, and you can start using the AIs. Okay, this takes a bit too long to do now, but I think you get the gist. We may want to switch to like a private network. Anyways, so I prepared an application that is just, I literally just did Flutter run, Flutter create, and I named it the Fluttercon application. So what I like to do, by the way, I forgot, I have a bunch of points and topics I've written down that I want to touch on. Different techniques, different things I do, different things I don't. I will kind of sprinkle them in as we go, and yes. So, we have an application. First thing we can do is clean this up, for example. Like, I literally mean it. Like, I don't like doing anything myself. Deleting code or moving stuff around, why would I? I mean, I can just tell some AI to do. It cleaned this up. Very simple, very nice. Oh. I think there's an issue with the, oh, there we go. So, we cleaned this up, and the first step is, I thought, we need to get the data from the conference, and we're using Cursor, we're writing code, but AI is not constrained to like an IDE. So we have a bunch of different tools that we can use. For example, if we go to the agenda, we need to have this data. So I hope this works. I haven't tested, but I have a fallback method. We should be able to just copy this link and put it into Cursor. So the cool thing about Cursor, it has native integrations to many different things. Namely, you can just paste the link and it is able to read the URL and kind of parse the outputs and get the information. So what I'm thinking, we can just kind of tell Cursor, hey, we have this data, we want to extract it. By the way, as you have seen, let me actually increase the size, I totally forgot. Appearance, zoom in. So this should be better. We can just tell it to extract data. So we also need to figure out what data model we want to use. It's good to have an understanding of what's going on, but we can use the AI to kind of help us iterate on what to do. Hey, I'm building a conference app. Always be nice to your AI. We never know when the tides will turn. So basically what I did here, and this is one thing that I'm gonna do a bunch and that I can highly recommend, is let's not dive like right into everything. First, let's architect. So what I like to do is I kind of like to tell it, hey, ask me questions. Try to iterate on structure before writing code. So let's see what it wrote. So looking at the Fluttercon USA agenda page, blah, blah, blah. Core entities to consider: conference event, basic info, branding, settings, okay, sessions, talks, star end description, room, venue, session type, track category, level. Let's just double check. Looking at these, I'm not sure if there's a level, like intermediate, expert, or beginner. So that might be not needed. Room venues, schedule days, user features, maybe networking features, use case. Okay, that's a pretty good question. What's the primary use case? First off, we just want to get the categories out. So for this, what I also sometimes, just giving it more context, is let's just screenshot this. Also, one thing all of these tools really do great is you can just add a screenshot. Some more context. Screenshot. So so let's just not make the conference name and so variable, just this conference, multi-track support, yes. Do you want login? Not yet. Cool, so it asked us a bunch of questions and we continued. So for anybody following along, Feel free to be inspired of kind of what I'm doing. Feel free to take your own spin and change stuff as kind of needed. Right now, the first step that I want to have is just have a data model of the conference entities, and later on we're gonna think and talk about features more. So this is kind of just the very first step to get a rough idea of what's going on. So we have something proposed. We have a session, speaker name, duration, session time, type. That's fine. The level. I don't think we have levels. I don't. We have tracks, which are the different stages. We have description, speaker bio, time slot. That sounds good. Day. There's a bunch of time slots. Time slot has a list of sessions. Conference, list of days. Okay, it says it has levels. Maybe I'm missing something. Do we have levels? Oh, we do. There we go. Never mind. I was wrong. Okay, so also one learning that I had, lots of times when AI kind of answers and creates output which doesn't seem logical or there's some flaw in it, lots of times it's because either I was wrong, believe it or not, like the AI is right lots of times, or it's missing some context. So maybe we forgot to edit some reference, some document, that's why it's coming up with stuff. So I thought we didn't have levels, but we do. Sounds great. Now create the data model definitions. I just saw it didn't put a finally in there. I think it would be smart enough to actually use a finally afterwards to just try to be nicer here, just to be sure. Data model definitions and populate with the data from the site. So let's see if we click on this. I'm not sure if it's, I think it's probably JavaScript or maybe it's CSS. We'll see if it extracts both days. And let's see what it does. So yeah, we just gave it a website and told it to do whatever you need to do. It's thinking, it's creating files, and let's see where it's going. I haven't thought about the architecture just yet because I thought this is the first step that we can and want to take, and we will see how we continue from here. By the way, is anybody stuck on anything? Is there anybody who kind of needs help? Yeah? Yes, wait, do you want to get the mic? Oh, because of the internet. One sec. Yeah. Does it work? It's on. Oh.
I was just going to say that I was using Windsurf,
Yeah.
and I was trying to get it to extract the data from the page.
Oh yeah. So I checked. So he basically said Windsurf had problems downloading the data because it's using some dynamic JavaScript. I think if Windsurf has a problem, Cursor probably has a problem too. So my fallback would be, I just would, like, we're gonna see in a minute, I wanted to take screenshots and just feed it the screenshots and it should extract the data itself. So we'll see in a minute. Scott, you said you had troubles downloading Cursor because. Okay, yeah. So Wi-Fi, yeah, I saw Wi-Fi is pretty slow. The website took way too long to load. Fortunately, LLMs don't require too much bandwidth. If anybody needs to download anything, I would suggest switching to a mobile hotspot and downloading it and then following along. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, I think it's running the same problem, just making up data. And yeah, it's making up data, so we aren't able to just pass it the link. So we will resort back to something else. So first, let's do this then. Do we actually need... Okay, so right now we would need to tap on every single card to get the description. Honestly, I think it's fine just not to have a description. So we can zoom out a bit and just do this. Okay, here is the actual data. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. Next day. Cool. While this is going, let's talk about architecture and how we're gonna kind of architect the app. So the thing with AI and like doing vibe coding is that it's all about context and being on the same page. AI at this point is, I would say, pretty clever and can understand what an architecture looks like and how to write proper code. The issue sometimes is that you're not on the same page as the AI. So let's say you have an application with a specific architecture, you tell the AI to do some work, and it just completely misses the point. Usually that's not really because it's dumb, sometimes it is, but lots of times it's because you didn't provide it enough context to kind of work the way you want it to work. Worst thing is that the AI has one understanding of your code base, but you actually meant a completely different thing. Let me delete this test so we don't have this. Okay, this might have a bit of trouble because I suppose it's uploading some data. Let me switch over to a mobile hotspot. That was the fallback. I think it's time. Yeah. Yes.
There's a public JSON feed for that page.
Oh, there is.
That you can just grab and it'll probably do the data model right on that.
That's awesome. Where is it?
I have it. I can send it. I can send it to you, but I can show you how to. If you inspect the traffic,
Yeah.
it's called. Let's open up your developer tools.
Yeah.
It's called GridSmart.
Awesome.
Or you can do the exact same.
Awesome. Okay, great suggestion. I haven't thought of that. So he said there's actually a JSON that we can use if we inspect the traffic on the website, which is actually way smarter. So that's the thing. Like sometimes vibe coding, doing all the things, you just do the brute force approach, but just being clever and actually doing something that you would do in reverse engineering a thing like this is better. So if we refresh this, there is... So there's speakers and GridSmart. Awesome. Let's see, here is the actual data. And we can just chug all of this in. And let's see what it comes up with. So architecture. So right now it's just putting everything into main, but we need to figure out what we want to do in terms of architecture. And we can think of that in a minute when it is kind of working. So what I'm thinking, very simple feature first approach. I was thinking of using auto router for very simple routing, and honestly nothing too fancy. So for this, I mean, while it is kind of generating, let's create a folder structure. I like to call something called modules. We can have dashboard. We have something like a details view. Okay, this is too long, so let's not do both at the same time. Okay, let's actually backtrack and just do it the old-fashioned way. we are gonna take the speakers, put it in here, create JSON models with this. So we can actually, I think it's even simpler if we just copy it over and create a new folder, assets, and call it speakers. We have a speakers.json, put it in there, and we have a talks.json, and this is much nicer. So there's always different ways to kind of go about this. So there is speakers and talks in PubSpec, create data models, load the data. Use feature first folder structures, and let's just pass all of this. So we just explained a bit. I won't go too much into depth for any rules files, but just keep in mind that Cursor and lots of different AI IDEs lets you create rules or like some small text documents. In the case of Cursor, these rules can also reference files, which is pretty nice, that you can write, and every time the AI does anything, it first looks at the rules. So for example, if you have some kind of opinionated application that you want to continue to work on, but you want to do a specific thing your way, it's best to like have a rules file where it knows what to do. In our case, it's a simple application. Usually what I like to do is kind of build up this kind of rules file once the app grows. So once we have like a feature implemented, we may write a rule file to kind of do things. So let me take it, look at the nodes. Cool. So this seems to be working. It's registering the files. It's creating shared documents. So yeah, this is awesome. As you can see, it actually does all the from and to JSON. We could have used a generator that actually takes the document and creates PODOs, plain old DAR objects. But I just wanted to highlight that you can use any tool you want, but like tasks like this, the AI is usually pretty good with, and is able to kind of work on this. It actually created a new folder called shared models, which I think is fine. That's pretty good. I found like most models, I don't know how it is for Gemini, they like to create these barrel files, which I'm not sure I'm too big of a fan of, but they do the job. So one thing I wanted to touch on, and that's also what we're doing right now, is I like to call it like crawl, walk, run, where we're not giving it, please build a conference app and be done. We actually tell it to do the steps as you as a developer would. So like typically the first step, what I would do when kind of working on this problem is first define the data models, because the data models define how you actually can interact with the whole problem. So that's what I usually like to tell the AI to do. If we were to kind of tell it like build the whole conference app based on this, like honestly, we might get an app which just works fine for us, but we lose control. So it's always kind of agenticness versus agency, where we want to be in charge. We want to kind of tell what we're going to build, because that's how it works in production. It's not like your boss asked you to implement a feature and you just ask the AI and it's going to figure it out somehow. You need to make all the decisions and you need to kind of do the things. So we can see it actually is a bit eager to do stuff. So we might just stop here. And I found that the Claude models are very eager to kind of do certain things. But let me quickly see what it done, what the damage is. So also one thing, it's always, I don't think I really have to say this, it's always great to review the code and actually see what we have. So it's using a singleton pattern. We could be using Riverpod. We may just use Riverpod. I think we're gonna do that in a minute. And it has like loading talks, get speaker by ID, get all sessions, get session by ID. So I think this is a pretty clean class that we can use. Stuff like this, like generally speaking, I would be more considerate and be careful about like things that are architectural, that's hard to change. But like a service class and so, those I'm typically more lax with because they usually are pretty kind of easy to replace. So this looks nice. Actually, let's just tell it to continue because we want to visualize something and we can change it in just a minute. In the meantime, we just, yeah?
I might be getting ahead of myself, but I wanted to figure out working out.
Testing.
Ah, yeah.
Okay. I might be getting ahead of myself here, but I wanted to try to run the app that I created in my Windsor or in my Cursor app. So my question was, do you generally just pivot over to Android Studio to run the app, or have you set up your local cursor so that you can run it using the command line tools and everything? How does your workflow look for actually running the app?
Yes, so in Cursor is just a VS Code fork, and VS Code has full Flutter support. So right now there's a syntax error, but you can run a Flutter app in Cursor. I think Windsurf should also be a VS Code fork, right? You can just install the Flutter plugin and just hit run, which we're gonna do in just a sec. When the generation is done, I'm gonna show how I run it. But so what I wanted to do is we wanted to use river pods. So this is also a cool thing we can do, is context is everything. Whenever you kind of work with something, I think RiverPod is established enough where the AI has enough training data to understand and know what RiverPod is. But just to be sure, and especially with packages which are like lesser known or more recent, it's great to kind of, okay, wow, it's generating quite a bit. So I think for the sake of time and for the workshop, maybe stuff it is kind of creating is fine for now. We'll definitely take a look at some of the state stuff and things that it is doing. But yeah, for RiverPod or like anything, it's great to give some context. So what I like to do is first off in pub, we can please use RiverPod for dependency injection. I paste a link to RiverPod, and the cool thing in Cursor, what you can do is if you go to indexing in docs, I'm not sure how it is for different AI IDEs, but a lot of different kind of tools have this, is you can add a doc, meaning RiverPod has a website, and the website has a bunch of documentation that you can watch, read, and see. We can actually just take this, put it in here, and Cursor is going to crawl the site and kind of build up an understanding of the package. You can call it RiverPod. I think I indexed it before, so this should be, yeah, I indexed it before, but now what we can do is we can just do add RiverPod documentation. Yeah, Claude really likes to analyze all the files to see if there's any issues. It doesn't really like the with opacity, like not using with opacity, so it likes to use that a lot, but that's something we can tell it not to do. Please use RiverPod without code generation. Let's just do without code generation. Before we send off the prompt, let's check out. Okay, so it runs Flutter itself, which is fine. We can let it run Flutter itself. So this is kind of where the cursor agentic loop ends, and this is exactly what I'm personally trying to achieve with Vide, because right now it stopped working, it started the app, and we have to verify and see what happened. But in my ideal world, what happens is that we actually let the AI run the application, take a look at the application, take screenshots, tap around and see if stuff is broken. So right now, in this specific aspect ratio, there's an overflow, which I would expect the AI to fix, but right now, the agentic loop is done, so now we have to come in place. That's kind of where my ambitions are. So let's check this out. We have a conference overview. We have top speakers. I'm not one of the top speakers. That's fine. Let's double check if the information is correct. Agentic experiences with Flutter, why bother? 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Stage 1. Like this looks solid, not gonna lie. And remember, this was one prompt. This was not much input. If you were to kind of do this in a more production-ready environment, you'd probably give it some more designs. Instead of letting it go off, you would explicitly tell it to not do any UI potentially. Maybe the data models could be done by hand first. And you'd actually tell it to please only implement this screen. More Flutter and Dart AI, oh my, at 10 a.m. Cool. And somewhere should be, okay, upcoming. This doesn't work. Cool, so I think this is a good start. There's lots to do. It's not responsive. We also need to check what's going on, but this is fine. So we can start this for now. So I hope this kind of explains, like you can use a command line, but you can also, for example, in VS Code, if you go to main, you can just hit debug and you have like a proper Flutter integration that you can start without code generation. So let's take a quick look at the code. We have a dashboard screen that is being pushed. We can accept this file. It's doing some addition. We can accept this. This looks good. So I'm not going to spend too much time kind of code reviewing right now, but like offline, you'd probably spend a bit more time and actually verifying, double checking, doing certain things. Let's accept this. Exporting barrel files, it's fine. Data service, this is fine for now. We're going to refactor in a minute using Riverpod. Speaker card, this is just a bunch of UI that we can change in a minute. So let's accept all, so we have a clean state. Looking at all the stuff, we have shared models, we have services, and some export. I'm fine with the architecture. I think that's the most important thing. You need to be fine on a high level. Details are easy to change using AI. Changing some specific UI is easy. Changing the full architecture of your app, that's hard. That's where you need to be careful. But I like the architecture. We have a dashboard. We have presentation. Not too big of a fan of the export stuff, but you probably could do like a rule or whatever and tell it not to. We have details. We have session details, speaker details. Nice. So over here, we can, so this is the thing. Over the last couple of months and probably year, I noticed that agents are more and more capable in building something completely on their own. As in comparison to earlier, I used to like really give it feed it all the context by, for example, dragging this over here and saying, okay, this is probably a file you should take a look at. But honestly, nowadays, the agents become more powerful where they can just explore the project on their own. And we're in the same chat, so we already have a bit of context. So in this case, I don't think we have a big need to kind of do that. Let me check my notes. YOLO mode and command execution. So this is also a thing that's specific to kind of these AI IDEs that most have, is you saw it executed some commands before, namely Flutter Analyze and so on. Usually it asks for permission to do so, which is good. Like you don't want an AI to remove everything. In Cursor, for example, you can go to general. Yeah, you can go to an auto run, which I guess got renamed. Before it was called YOLO mode, where you could just allow it to run commands. What I have done is I gave it specific commands it is allowed to run that I know that are not going to be problematic. So for example, FVM Flutter test and FVM Dart analyze or Flutter analyze are auto-runnable, meaning whenever it wants to analyze a file, it doesn't need permission from me, which is very convenient. Like best case, you want the AI to do as much as possible without before first yielding to you, because every time it kind of stops and you have to take a look, that's kind of time you have to spend. Best case, it is able to work as long as possible fully on its own. So let's kind of see what it is doing. So it is changing to a consumer widget, which is exactly what we want. It is adding Flutter Riverpod version 2.6, which should be the latest version because we gave it the reference to the page, yes. It's creating a bunch of providers, which is exactly what we want. Exporting some stuff, it's adding a provider scope. So this is some very typical Riverpod code that you would write, and it has a deep understanding of Riverpod. I would say I would like to say because we gave it the correct context, but I think in this case, it just knows about Riverpod because it has a lot of training data on it. So it's probably pretty smart. One thing you also notice with these tools is they correct stuff. Like it's not just some whiteboard coding. If we check this out, there's a bunch of lints, which are errors that you can see. We don't have to fix them on our own right now, but the AI is able to get the information from LSP through the editor and iterate on them until they're gone, or it gives up because it can't fix it. This case, it's just a bunch of context stuff, which is, I think, a pretty easy fix. This case, yeah, it just created like a new thing. It didn't pass the context because I think it went from a stateful widget to a consumer widget, which is good. We want as much stateless stuff as possible. And a consumer widget, like there's also a consumer stateful widget. Like just a quick, we don't have to dive too deep into Riverpod, but a consumer widget is basically a stateless widget which has access to Riverpod. A consumer stateful widget is the same but stateful. And it converted and noticed, okay, we don't need a stateful widget anymore because we can simplify. And that's why there were a bunch of functions where it now has to pass the context to get the theme. Cool. You see, this is actually quite a big change. And we should have done this before, but imagine doing this like 2 months into the project and it has to like touch 50 or 100 files. That's bad. That's why you as an engineer need to make these decisions as early as possible and kind of enforce them across the project. And the more AI has to kind of keep in context, change and so on, the worse it is. But in this case, it's still pretty early. We're doing a bit of iterating, experimenting, and I kind of wanted to show what it's capable of. Yes, cool. So it should be done any minute. Okay, yeah, it's now refactoring the second page. And we can take a look at what we wanted to implement. So we wanted to have a desktop and mobile layout. We wanted to be able to bookmark talks. We wanted to be able to take notes, maybe push notifications, and publishing to the web using like some CI/CD that we'll see if we have time. If we don't, I'll take like 10 minutes after the workshop and just hit a couple of buttons to publish it and everybody can potentially use it. So one of the big questions that you have to really ask yourself as a developer is, what do you actually do while the AI is doing all the work? There's a couple of things you can do. Like drinking some coffee is always good. You just have to actually you have to be careful not to drink too much coffee because you have so much time while kind of the AI is doing stuff. I noticed Flutter Analyze is not part of the YOLO mode, so I can show off rules in a minute, but yeah, let me actually show rules first. So we can add a rule, and we can always use FVM inter. So we can hit done, and yep, now we have a rule. And going forward, every time it does anything Flutter, we just notice we wanted it to use FVM. It's gonna hopefully use FVM. So I really like to build up these rule set as you're coding along. Like at first, just see what it does, and whenever there's any issue that you see it repeatedly gets wrong, just create a rule, and next time it's gonna work. I think only next time we run it's actually gonna read the rule. So I think during this generation it's still not using FVM. So let's check this out. Yeah, everything looks the same. We haven't done anything to change any looks or so. We just changed the state management. And just give it a quick look. We've removed a bunch of state, which is always nice. Again, this is not really wrong code. Like building an app like this in a demo setting, writing code like this might actually be just fine. Just having a stateful widget that loads some data. But we wanted to use Riverpod. We may want to scale. And this is like, if you use block, if you use qubits, if you use any state management, it's just about kind of giving it the context and what to do. So let's see what we want to work on next. Cool. Always good to I like to start a new chat whenever I feel like I'm starting on a new thing. So right now we finished our refactoring. There's no reason to reuse the chat. The context from before is really not too relevant. And yes, so I noticed we don't have separate tracks, and we have some sort of overflow. So looking at the website, we see there's different stages. And we are just going to tell it to now let's implement so that we can switch between, oh, yeah, so this is a big UX thing. You probably don't want to tap to switch between stages because that's really annoying. Usually what you want to have is like see a time slot and see all the talks for the time slot. That's, for at least for me, is like way better UX. So now let's change the UI so that for every time slot, shows all the talks there are. So again, we probably don't need the details. So what I like to do sometimes is just include some relevant context. Probably best to include all of this. And this is literally sometimes what I do. This is especially more important on like bigger projects. Like right now, I don't think we would have needed to include the actual context because it can look around. But if you start working on a project with millions of lines of code, thousands of files, it might be good just to give it like, this is the directory that we're currently working in. Don't mind looking at the rest. So that's kind of just nice to give it some kind of direction and be very specific. So looking at what it just did here, it looks pretty solid, I would say. Like anything algorithmic, it usually gets pretty right. We have a time slot card, which is part of the widgets, and you notice it's, I feel at least for me, it's not really spiraling out of control, building a lot of spaghetti code. It stays in like the architecture. If it creates a new widget, it creates a new component, and it puts into the widgets. If it kind of creates a new data provider, it puts it to the data provider. So AI is really, and like the foundational models really got better and started to be really smart, actually. While we're here, just let me double check how much time we have. 11:30, so we still have more than 20 minutes. Easy peasy. Generating commands, so it used FVM. So maybe it was because of the rule, or maybe it was just because it decided to use FVM, but that worked. We can use hot reload. Vibe once, run everywhere. Right now we are running on web, which has hot reload now. So we have, this looks nice. So I actually really like the UX. A lot of conference apps have it where if you have a time slot which is on the horizontal, you have to tap a button to like switch between them, which is so annoying if you just want to see what talks there are. But yeah, 9 a.m. we got 10:15 to 11:30, which 10:15 to 11:30. Okay, so kind of what it did, and this is kind of an edge case, which is I think fine for now because it's kind of difficult to solve in a user experience point of view, not from a data structure point of view. This workshop is spanning 2 talks, so it kind of said this is kind of one session. 11:10, 11:30. Okay, I put it into 2 different sessions. So we have these 2, which is a separate session. So yeah, what it did is basically the sessions are based on the time starting. So these are 4 sessions which are starting at 10:15. Again, like if we had a bit more time, you'd probably take more time to really think about stuff like this. You would iterate first, like at the very beginning what we did. That's what I really like to do, is first off, analyze the problem. Add in screenshots and ask it, hey, is there any issue you see that we could think about? And ask me relevant questions. Like one thing that mostly in like technical interviews that you're taught to do is before starting to work on a problem, first ask questions. Whenever you do, don't just blindly do whatever you think is right, do whatever you know is right. And to know what is right, you need to kind of understand what it is. and kind of explaining it to the AI is like one of the biggest tips I have. In the live streams I showed before, that's what I was doing all the time. Whenever I started working on a new feature, it was always, let's think about this first. And lots of times, it actually asked really, really good questions, like edge cases I really didn't think about. And I was like, that's a good question. I don't know what we should do. Do you have an idea? And then it came up with potential solutions. And usually what it does, like, we have 3 options. Option 1, option 2, option 3. Which one should we pick? And you're like, I like option 2. Let's go with that. So while this is going, what we can do next, and this is kind of where the agent loop breaks, as I said before, overflows. It doesn't detect overflows itself right now. Let's skip this, we don't want to run because we have our own runner. This looks pretty solid. It's like a long list. Let's see how the daybreak is handled. (9 a.m. Let's check on the website. It's until 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Okay, it just puts it on the list. We can change it in a minute. But this looks good. And we can accept all of this. So one thing where kind of the agentic loop breaks, no overflow doesn't catch, but like screenshots are great. And if you wanted to, like, you can scribble on a screenshot using some third-party image editor and kind of tell it, yeah, this is different. This is bad. You need to change this. So we know there is a problem in top speakers. Top speakers. Actually, I don't know where the widget is right now. Like, giving it like a second to, probably it's over here, but sometimes something as simple, just telling it, hey, here's a screenshot, please fix, tends to just work sometimes. And this is a simple thing. This is just some spacing where there's a couple of pixels missing. And what it's doing is basically searching the code base, thinking, reading models, and it will hopefully fix the issue. So what is left? Let's see what it did for kind of going into a talk. Oh, there's a status accepted. Interesting. There's an issue in loading speakers, which we can tackle in a minute. What I would like is to have some proper desktop and mobile UI to make it really responsive and nice to use. And also, I would like for you to be able to favorite a talk. And probably have it at the top of like a time slot. So whenever you scroll, you just see all the talks as you favorited at the top of the time slot. And last but not least, I think push notifications would be great. So let me restart. Oh. Restart like this. Oh, it's still going. Oh, it's still going. I don't know why I tried to do a Flutter run. I mean, we can go into rules. Do not run Flutter yourself. We have a done. We got a new rule. Next time it's just not going to run Flutter. It's that easy. So what it is doing now, first examine, type safe, can be more robust. Okay, I guess we told it to fix something and gave it an ambiguous screenshot. It's just fixing stuff, which is, I guess, fine, but let's stop it right here because that's not the point. But yeah, this is a good point. Like, this is one of the shortcomings. I found that for some reason, anything aspect ratio related AI kind of struggles with. Like if you have a car and there's some overflow because the aspect ratio don't really fit, that's where it kind of struggles sometimes. So here just clean stuff up slightly. So honestly, let's just go in ourselves and see what's going on and potentially fix it ourselves. So sometimes it's just good to kind of do stuff yourself. Top speakers, height, edge insets. it's 8 pixels at the bottom. Oh, there's a button. Okay, I see. Top speaker. Let's see what this does. I feel like we're not getting any hot reloads, I think. Okay, let's actually run on, I don't know what's wrong, let's run on macOS. For some reason, I think it was just some Flutter bug. But yeah, so let's do, okay, yeah, it's fixed. I don't know, I think there was some hot reload issue. Images, I think I'm not sure how the data structure looks right now. If we go into speakers, their profile picture, which is maybe a link that we would probably kind of look, maybe there's some issue with that, but not too important. Like, we don't have too much time, so I don't want to go into all the details. One thing that would be kind of important is we want to be able to favorite talks and fix this one. So let's create a new chat. For some reason, speaker on the talk detail page keeps loading forever. And what I like to do is give it a screenshot and probably give it some kind of context, details. That's where it's at. That's kind of the starting point for it to work on. So while that is working, we can already kind of write our next prompt. So that's something you can do, is while it's generating. Like, think of what you want to do next. Is let's implement favoriting talks, or either filled or not. To local storage. So I'm just typing out the prompt. So we want to use, let's go over here rather, shared preferences, because I know that works in the web. We want to use shared preferences for that. We wanted to persist it, and that's pretty much it. Please explore the project and make a plan first, not write. So actually what we can do, Cursor has this thing where we can do create a new tab. And while this is working, we can actually start with this, which in this case works because we're not writing any code. We're just kind of iterating. So this is kind of, I think, where it starts to get interesting. Like, you see, we're making progress, but we're waiting a bunch. So if all day you're just sitting there waiting for stuff to be finished and not doing anything on your own, you may as well not be more productive. But anytime the AI is kind of working and generating, it frees up some of your time to think about stuff, to architect things, or maybe work on other features. This is especially useful if you have like a bigger project where there's different parts of the code base that you can work on simultaneously. And it's quite nice to, it's quite nice to just free up some brain space working on redundant, or like not redundant, but like not so inspiring tasks. So yeah, we have results, a river pod, clean architecture, blah, 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 implementation plan, shared preferences, nice. Favorites, favorite service, nice. We want to use that, like we want to write great code. Favorites provider using riverpod, nice. Data layer enhancements, modify time slot to sort sessions with each time slot. Favorite, looks good. Great favorite button widget, that's what we want to have. Update session card, update session detail screen, state management integration, visual feedback, questions for clarification. Great, this is the fun part. So let's see. Should favorite session have any additional visual indicator besides the heart, different backgrounds? Let's do a fun gradient background. subtle. Maybe, I don't know. Within favorite group in each time, how should sorting be done? Sorting doesn't matter. Visuals and favorited and non-favorite times and time slots. No visual separator. Cool. User experience or persistent. Should we persist other preference in the future? Yeah, okay. I said we are gonna do notes, but time is running low, so let's just skip notes. And we're just gonna focus on favorites. So let's do a no. User experience, animation. Yes, a fun animation, please. Let's see what it comes up with. Snack bar toast. A snack bar would be nice. View all favorites. Yes, a view all favorites would be great. Edge case is what happens if you use a favorites a session that gets canceled, changed in the JSON data. Good question. What happens? Nothing will change. Should we handle migration of the session ID format changes in the future? Nope. The plan is designed to be modular, following blah, blah, blah. Sounds good. While that is going, before sending that off, let's see if it was able to fix the problem. If we go over here. Wait, why are we running on? Oh my god, I think this was a stale session, wasn't it? Okay, for some reason, VS Code is acting up, so let's just do it the old-fashioned way. Let's quickly check what it is. But sometimes, like, could very well be that it doesn't find the bug, and that's where you as a developer have to come in. Like, if you face a roadblock and you're kind of done, that's bad, because then you're really you're dependent on the AI, and that's not what you want to be. You want to use AI as a tool to enhance whatever you're doing, but you don't want to like be dependent on the AI where if it makes a mistake, you're lost. And yeah, this time it wasn't able to find the bug. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what the problem is. We can check the logs real quick. Oh, that's interesting. Something I forgot. On macOS, you need to do a permission for the photos. I think that's why the photos are missing. Client. It wasn't able to find the bug. Let's see what it changed, if we need to reject or accept it. Oh, now it worked. Yeah, there it is. Okay, no. So speakers is broken, we need to fix. There's some issues loading. But honestly, this change looks good. It's just doing some additional checks. But let's switch over to here, and let's send this one off. Oh yeah, it loaded in nicely. Overall, honestly, we haven't really specified it to be fully responsive, but I'm quite happy with how it turned out. And just for the sake of time, like this is a very time-constrained environment. I think this is fine. Oh, we have a pull to refresh. Sometimes it's like the small things. You just notice your software suddenly having features you never, like it should have, but you didn't really think about too much, which could be good or bad depending on kind of what you do. But we have some vertical scrolling over here. View all does nothing. View full schedule does nothing too. So that's also a thing that Claude as a model likes to do, is it just likes to add buttons and not implement it, which is fine because you just kind of create a scaffold first and then do some implementation later. So if we look at the code for view all, there's probably a comment like later implement navigating to that screen. So this is going and this is happening. And again, just to kind of reiterate, we're building a full app which is getting real data, giving you real kind of storage. And like, I don't know how much code we've written, but it's like a couple of 100 lines of code. And I would say this is not bad code. Like, this is not code that we need to throw away. There's definitely parts of it that we need to kind of adjust and kind of that we need to iterate on and make sure that stuff works the way we want it to work. But we decided we want to use shared preferences. If we told it to use SQLite, for example, which might be a better option for certain scenarios, it would have been able to kind of do SQLite and have a good implementation for it. So yes, so we have a favorites notifier, which is kind of one of the preferred ways to handle more complicated situations in Riverpod. 5 minutes left. More complicated situations in Riverpod, which is like it's pretty much a qubit, which is really nice. So we have a toggle favorites, is favorites, clear all favorites. Like this is stuff that you would do in Riverpod. This is code that I would kind of, somebody were to open a pull request with that code, I would probably be like, yeah, that's good code. I think that works. And yeah, it's writing some code. It missed a bracket, I suppose, and it noticed. If we look at, we can look at the internal thoughts. It may have like a missing, yeah. So it seems like it had issues with this before. So let's see, like it should be able to fix this. If not, it's just a simple kind of closing bracket. Actually, let's do it ourselves so it doesn't loop around again. So while this is generating, just to have like some end to this and some closing remarks, goal was to kind of give you a glimpse on how capable AI is and what it can do. It's not just a tap to complete model anymore, where we have to do everything and we just get some basics done for us. Oh, by the way, I really like all the emojis it writes at the end. Some people really don't like them, but it's just a clean thing to have. It's really, what's going on? Let's do a restart. There should be no errors, yeah. It's really more than that. Like nowadays, you can use AI and like this whole agentic mode in whatever IDE, whatever situation you want to use to do so much more. Simple things are becoming simpler like they should be. Like implementing a favorites feature is no rocket science. And I think it's great that we can implement features which are pretty simple in little time. So let's check. It did the heart. It's not too nice where it reloads the screen, meaning it kind of changes the scroll position. So that's probably something that we would iterate and fix. But if we do a hot restart, we should see, yeah, it's still in local storage. If we go over here, we want to favorite this, scroll down, and it's at the top. And we have a nice gradient, which is, I think, actually looks pretty cool. Yeah, so if we open this one's still broken, there's no favorite here. Like you see, there's a bunch of small things that we would need to kind of fix. But yeah, I think for now, that's it. That's what we were able to do in like, I would say about half an hour while I was kind of talking. Just imagine what you can do in like a full day of coding with this. Like on the plane, flying over here from Germany, I was able to do so much stuff because I had a lot of time, nobody was bothering me, and I was able to kind of iterate and work on so many other things. After this talk, I'll sit down for like a minute. I will publish this to GitHub. So it's accessible via URL. If somebody wants to kind of try it out on the web, just come to me and I will send you the URL. I'll probably tweet about it, so if you're following me on X, feel free to check that out. And yes, I think that's it. Thanks everybody for being in this workshop. If anybody was able to build something that they want to show, I will walk around and I'm very eager to see what you were able to kind of vibe along while we were doing our app. Thank you.